All right, so today I just wanted to go over a few tools I know of for predicting political outcomes that don't involve watching pundits or paying attention to opinion and stuff like that, or speculation on news articles. Just go right out to what the market thinks. And why should you care what the market thinks? Basically because it provides a direct financial incentive for them to be accurate rather than just like edgy or something that catches people's attention. So it's not just like opinion or a select poll that someone picks out because it fits their narrative. It's someone trying to make money. So they have an incentive to be accurate and not partisan. The first of three approaches I'm going to show you today for engaging with political markets are aggregators. So aggregators are like this website here, Election Betting Odds, which is phenomenal. Covers a bunch of different subjects and pulls from a few different websites and gives you a very quick, easy to digest overview of what the market thinks right now. So Trump, about a 61% chance they think of being elected president in November of 2024. Harris, after Biden dropped out, is sitting at about 35%. And we got some stragglers based on who eventually gets the Democratic nomination. But right now it's looking like probably Harris. There's also each individual state they've got odds on, which is just super cool. So you can see the odds of any individual state and which states are battleground states, ones that are kind of toss-ups and where you're probably going to see the most political action at. If you're looking specifically for the nomination, for Democrats, you can go to this page. You can see Harris is at almost 90%. She's basically a lock at this point. You can see how that changes over time. So it's a pretty neat and quick way to see how the market is thinking on a given issue. If you don't care about the candidate and just the party, you can go here. Looks like Republicans are got a decent edge here at about 61%, and it's kind of spiked in the past couple weeks. You can look on other things like who's going to control the House. Looks like Democrats have a slight edge there, but it's pretty much a toss-up. If you check out the Senate, looks like Republicans are pretty heavy favorites in that regard. So that's the first aggregator, electionbettingodds.com. Great website. Check it out. Very quick way to just stay informed with very little effort. Another website that I don't think is as good as Real Clear Polling's Betting Odds website. They kind of do a similar thing where they aggregate the data, but they don't seem to know how to normalize probabilities very well. Like it doesn't sum up to 100, which is odd. It's close enough if you just want like a really quick overview, and you can see they've also got the Dem nomination here, and Trump is also hovering at about the same percentage odds, pretty close to 60, which is similar to what it was at electionbettingodds.com. You can see here Harris is at about 82%, which is lower than it was on election betting odds, and it's because this also lags a little bit too, so this might be a few hours old or even a day old. So I would not use this as my first resource because one, it's just not as clear and effective as election betting odds, and it's also the data is not as up to date. So it's just a second option, but I would not choose it as my first. Now, after those two aggregators, I'm going to go directly to the prediction markets that they're pulling some of this data from. So you can go to this website called Polymarket, which is phenomenal. It's got markets on a whole bunch of different things, and you can learn so much very quickly. You can see here, Trump's at about 64%, Harris is 32% for president. Democratic nominees about 87%, which is closer to what we saw on electionbettingodds.com. Looks like for Democratic VP, we got stuff like Shapiro, Cooper, Kelly, kind of what people have all been talking about recently. So you can even stay informed in that regard, and a bunch of different things. We can look at popular vote winner. Looks like it's kind of a toss-up right now. So Trump's a heavy favorite for the Electoral College, but not so much for the popular vote. Harris and Trump are basically neck and neck there right now, which is very interesting. Another prediction market that you could look at is PredictIt, but I don't recommend them nearly as much because of some caps they have on how much money you can spend and the fees that they charge. There's not as much sharp action as far as I can tell there. But again, just for like a quick overview, it will suffice. But I would recommend Polymarket over PredictIt. And again, we can look here and see similar picture. Republicans are about 60% chance. And one thing I want to say also to explain prediction markets a little bit to anyone who's not very familiar with them. The way they work is when you buy a contract here at, let's say, Josh Shapiro at 31 cents. If you're right that he is the VP pick for the Democrats, you get $1. So what does this kind of structure facilitate? It facilitates the market equilibrium probability being that price. Because if it's actually 31% odds and people are buying it at 35 cents, they're going to lose money on average. Or if it's 31% odds and people are buying it, or if it's being sold for 25 cents, that's going to get bought up, right? Because there's that ability for someone to make profit on average. So it's just that that convergence on the market equilibrium probability that these prediction markets do a really good job of capturing. But sometimes you're not going to find the question that you're looking for on one of these websites. So say you're interested in like a ballot initiative in your state or something like that. Like, is your state going to pass marijuana legalization or something like that? One option is to look at something called sports books or just betting markets. The issue there, and there's a couple of extra steps, is implied probabilities from the odds. So you're going to have to take odds, typically in the United States, which is where I live. You'll have to take odds that are like minus 500 or plus 450, and you're going to have to convert them to a probability because it's kind of like an obfuscated thing. So you're going to have to undo that and turn, say, the 500 plus 500 into this 83%, which is an implied probability based on those odds, which is what odds represent. So let's do an example here. Let's go to Pinnacle, which is a phenomenal sports book, very sharp lines, but they don't have a lot as far as offerings for politics. But let's just do a quick example here. All right, so it looks like for the presidential election, they have Donald Trump at minus 201 in the field. So every other candidate at plus 171. I'll walk you through quickly how to take those odds, convert them to an implied probability, and then a normalized probability. Let's go option, Trump, other. We can do odds. He's minus 201 and plus 171. So implied probabilities here is going to be a conditional statement. It's going to be when they're positive or not a favorite, you do 100 plus the odds under 100. And if they're negative, you're going to turn those into positive odds and then add 100 at the bottom. Do the same below. So there's an issue here, which if you're quick at math, you'll notice immediately. They sum up to more than 100%. That's problematic, obviously, because they have to sum up to 100% because they cover all possible outcomes here. It's either Trump or not. So what we have to do is squeeze out something called the VIG. It's basically the cost that is baked into sportsbooks odds, which is how they can make money regardless of who wins. So their job is to accurately reflect the market probability in terms of odds, but then charge a little extra so they make money regardless of who you bet on, basically. So what you have to do is remove that. So I'm going to call these no VIG or no juice odds. And all you got to do is you take that sum and divide it out of that initial implied probability. So see, it adjusted it down a little bit. So Trump, they have at 64% chance and the field at 36% chance. Another website you could go to is Bovada. They got a lot of interesting markets, a lot more than Pinnacle typically. We could look at, let's find an interesting one for something we could do. Ooh, here, we could do will Donald Trump and Harris debate? So let's do yes is minus 400 and no is plus 275. Come up here and we'll do yes debate and no. I forgot the odds already. Minus 400 and plus 275. And I'll just copy this formula because it's the same for American odds across that. And again, we can see it sums up to a little over 100. So what we're going to have to do is divide it out again. Very simple process. All right, so it looks like people think it's 3 times as likely that they're going to debate as it is they're not. So 75% of the time, or the market thinks there's a 75% chance that they will debate, which is relatively high. One other website you could look at is BetUS. Let's look at the popular vote. Why not? We can go here, and we're going to find odds. Let's go with, these look like they're all by state, which, fair enough, we'll just take that. Who's basically likely to win the popular vote in Arizona? Let's just go ahead and pull these odds over here, and I'll run the same process. Money line is just the odds. So I'll pull these, and boom. Okay, we divide it out. All right, it looks like Republicans are expected to win the popular vote in Arizona roughly 66% of the time. Just quickly, I want to check up and see what election betting odds thinks. Let's go to here. Okay, this is pretty much the same. We can look here and we see that it's about a 64% chance on this website. And you should see broad agreement across all of these. There might be some difference, but they're broadly going to align. Otherwise, there'd be arbitrage opportunities. So basically, I hope this video just helps you have a few extra resources to understand what's likely to happen in politics with relatively little effort. I would recommend Aggregators, number one, just because they're easy. Political prediction markets for some niche questions like ballot initiatives and whatnot, and sports books, bookies, just betting websites with odds if you can't find your question being answered on a prediction market or on an aggregator. So, and with that, thanks everybody for tuning in. And real quick, before I completely close this video, every resource that I've mentioned or talked about shown here will be in the pinned comment below, so you can click on the links. You can figure out how to convert odds and whatnot. I'll show specifically that website too, because that'll be helpful for people who haven't had to do this before, and how to convert it to the implied odd format. And then you can calculate the overround, which is the sum of all those implied odds, and divide it out so you can get your normalized true probabilities. So take a look at those links, and if there's any questions, I will try to address them in the comments.